Many people I've talked with have admitted to feeling some form of spiritual connection. They accept a higher being even though they may simultaneously deny the existence of God. This spiritual connection, even if they believe it is not manifested as God in their life, helps them move through the physical nature of this world. It is as if built within each one of us is this understanding of something beyond this life, something not of our worldly nature, something spiritual. Spirituality is something that comes within the package we call life. It is like a twine that binds us up to the very nature of creation itself. Only by accepting our spiritual nature can we truly be made whole. Without a sense of spirit in our life, it is as if something is missing. Spirituality is often denied because it does not fit within the standards set by this physical reality. Spirituality rests inside each of us, manifesting itself in ways far different from those in our physical world. Some will suggest that spirituality is but an evolutionary function of an advanced brain. I choose to think of it as something beyond my comprehension, placed there by God. Even if it is a portion of my brain, I think that connection was placed there by God to provide a portal in my physical body through which I can feel His presence. To believe that I am part of a world that came together just through some random chance is beyond my comprehension. It takes far more effort to believe in the nothingness of the universe than to believe in an intervening God that I feel every day. Even when doubters accept that there may be a spiritual component to their lives, they often fail to allow it to connect with God. In those cases, their relationship with God is lacking, and their spirituality is confined to the nature of this world. They fail to have the open expanse of true spiritual existence with God. This is understandable since the body we inhabit is tied to this world. Our language is tied to the nature of our physical existence. Because our physical life is caught up in the reality of today, the noise of this world can easily block out our understanding and our acceptance of a relationship with God. True God-centered spiritual existence allows us to transcend the nature of this world. It is difficult for us to comprehend existence without this physical reality of this life. How can there be anything without the twinkling of stars in the night or the brilliance of the sun during the day? We focus our attention on this life even though through this process we may sacrifice the next one. Consider this. God's love exists without time and space and outside the physical reality of this world. Our feelings do not need a physical presence in which to exist. And our inner spirit is of greater importance than our cut finger. Because of the connection we have with the world, we are prone to spend time in endless debates about God, our faith, and our beliefs. We will argue endlessly about how all of creation and our existence within that creation fits into the physical reality of our world today. We will debate the meaning of a particular word, finally twisting its meaning to fit some need we have here on this planet. We fight over our understanding of details, often forgetting the bigger picture. We argue endlessly as to whose side God support. We bring God into our politics as if He's sitting watching the election returns, rooting for some candidate that evokes His name the most. How stupid we are to try to use Him in these ways. We seem to have an inherent need to connect God into some type of physical meaning to our life. Sometimes we go so far as to think that a raindrop on the window is a sign from God. When we do this, we diminish the true spiritual relationship with God. Our spirituality is not tied to the actions within this world. It is not something we possess that allows us to control who wins the ball game, and it is certainly not tied to winning those political debates. Our spirituality is involved only in the relationship we have with God. We must resist the temptation to bring spirituality into this world in a way that allows it to be a tool or a crutch. We must not rely on our spirituality to control our world, but rather use it to become part of God's Holy Spirit. Rather than trying to use God to achieve some outcome we desire in this world, we must humbly follow God's direction to His world through the lessons Jesus brought to us. Consider for a moment a God who has no need to use a clock to measure the length of the day or trigonometry to measure the height of a tree. Think of a God who sees more beauty in the smile of a child than in all the gold in the world. Consider for a moment a God who builds beauty into the universe. Don't think of a God as a deity that helps your team and win the ball game, or a God that helps a given candidate for office. Think of a God who, in the twinkling of a moment, makes a creature who has the ability to see and perceive the beauty in all of his creation. A creature who can not only see it with physical eyes, but who can feel it with the heart God has given him. All of our debate about our spirituality is merely born from a need to bring God down to our level. We live in a world that desires to define him in our terms. We do this even though somehow we know our terms will never be adequate in defining God. We have a need that continually drives us to make ourselves and others feel comfortable with this life. We have a desire to create a world where God can be explained within the physical context of what we are now. We have a desire to make him a manifestation of this world rather than let go of this world so we can become part of his. We want him to speak English, German, Hebrew, or one of the other earthly languages as he speaks to us. God speaks the language of God, a language full of love and compassion rather than verbs and nouns. We expect to hear his booming voice echoing in our head, but it's not there. God appears not as a booming voice, but as a quiet flow of love and passion running throughout our life like a mountain brook. We simply need to allow our spiritual nature to come forth as a seed that he has planted within us. This seed, if allowed to grow, will provide all the answers we need. He provides answers to us in ways that words can never touch. He will connect us with his language. We will have no need to relegate him to ours. While all of this may be true, somehow deep inside, if we're honest, we feel that seed that God has planted within us. Somehow we know, without thinking, that we must nurture the seed, let it come forth and blossom in the world. We can try to live only on the logic of the world, but somehow the spiritual part of our being will always show through. If we let him into our heart, answers will be so satisfying that they will instill in us a calmness of purpose. They will provide us with the new prism through which we can see his work and feel his presence. We must let the light from his prism overlay our intellect. If we let the light of God shine through the prism of our spirit, we will begin to have a true connection with God that will allow us to move away from the debates of this world into the reality of his.